I'd like to call our meeting to order. At this time, Ms. Steele, if you please call the roll.
Mr. Gibson?
Here.
Dr. Orth?
Here.
Mr. Hutson?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Chriscoe?
Here.
Mr. Bazzani?
Here.
Mr. Nicosia? Here. All present. You have
Thank you,
a
Ms.
quorum.
Steele. At this time, I'm going to ask that you stand as Mr. Chris Hutson, Gloucester Point District Supervisor, lead us into our invocation and our pledge.
Heavenly Father, we gather tonight to conduct the county's business. Let us be mindful of all the events that are going on in the world. May you have grace for all of us and protect us and bless us all, each and every one of us. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Okay, approval of the minutes for May the 6th, 2025.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, matters presented by the board. Any matters presented by the board? Seeing none, county administrative items.
Thank you. Want to remind everyone that this Saturday is the We the People celebration over in Yorktown and the opportunity to watch the Ken Burns film. And we've been marketing out there for all of the Gloucester people to wear Gloucester t-shirts so we can all recognize one another and hopefully try to sit together. And t-shirts are available at Walmart and also our visitor center that have our names on them. And you do have to pre-register for that event through Eventbrite, even though it is free. So please come Saturday. It starts at 3 and the film starts at 7. The homecoming parade, to give a little bit of heads up, that will be on October 2nd. It's a little bit early this year, and that will be down Main Street as usual. The offices will remain open to the full hours, and the parade happens after our work hours. But it does get pretty congested up here. And then the last thing I wanted to say is we provided some information to you all about the potential for the mural on the senior center and did get feedback from several board members and provided that to Main Street Preservation Trust and the Cook Foundation so that they could pass it on to the artist. And they are looking forward to going back to the county attorney and getting that part straight. So if this is kind of the last call of anybody having any concerns or wishes for that mural, otherwise it'll go back to legal and then come back to you for adoption. Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Steele, thank you. Let's see, public comment period. We ask anyone that want to speak tonight, if you want to come, and it's only limited to the topics on the work session agenda only. Public comment? Seeing none, and we'll just, do you have any, none? Well, seeing none, then we'll just move on to our work session agenda. First, we have a presentation of Virginia Association of Counties Achievement Award, Mr. James Hutzler and Mr. Quentin Shepard.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, good evening. This is the first time I've given out 2 awards at once, so forgive me. Well, you guys got too much hardware, too much good stuff going on in Gloucester. Again, James Hutson, Virginia Association of Counties, for the benefit of everyone who doesn't know what the Virginia Association of Counties is or what we do. Since 1934, we've been around to serve county interests on behalf of you all down to the General Assembly and at the federal level. We also serve counties through educational programs, member services, and our communications. So we have these achievement awards every year. We send them out. Counties apply to talk and discuss the good things that they're doing. Gloucester County won last year. I was in the same exact spot about a year ago. And Gloucester County won 2 this year. I'm sure you don't want to just hear from me all day, and I'm going to turn this over to Gloucester staff to discuss the actual awards.
Good evening, board members, Ms. Steele, Mr. Wilmot. I just want to, thank my staff. Savannah's here. If Savannah, you want to come on up with me. We've tried to make it, excuse me, a priority since 2020 to reach a different audience of folks. We've traditionally relied on press releases, we've traditionally relied on social media, but we wanted to try to make sure that we got a different audience of people that don't traditionally tune into those media. So one of these awards is for our Current Conversations podcast, which was launched in 2020. Since that time, that podcast has reached over 2,000 people. We try to delve into different topics of interest. For instance, the latest one featured Katie in public utilities talking about some of the issues that you all are facing in public utilities. One of our most popular podcasts was what's going on across from Lowe's, and at the time that was at the beginning of that development. So that one received quite a few listens. Our second award is the use of short-form video, and Savannah has been primarily working on that, and that's basically to reach folks in a unique way to try to capture their attention, because we're finding as things progress in media that the short-form video is really what grabs people's attention. So Savannah, I'll let you say a few words about that if you'd like to.
I guess it's just a pleasure to work for the county's best department, community engagement and public information. But yeah, it's been a real privilege to have Quentin's support and the administration's support as we try to expand our reach through social media in ways that we wouldn't normally before. Because the goal of government is to be transparent, right? So we need to be reaching people where they are, and it's a lot of fun to get out and make videos with your coworkers and explain the things that we've been working on as a county government.
And our main goal through all of this is to try to combat a lot of the misinformation that's out there with truthful, factual information. So we're trying to encourage folks to tune into our official channels to make sure that that's where they're getting their information rather than some of the 411 sites that we all grapple with out there. So just want to thank you all for your support and appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.
Again, congratulations all, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank Supervisor Chriscoe for your leadership within VACO and as chair of the Agriculture Committee. Good to work with you, sir. So thank you all.
And Mr. Hutzler, it's a pleasure to work with you, and just come back up here a second. I want you to tell everybody where you grew up.
Oh, no.
I grew up in Gloucester County.
It's not often we get to work with folks from VACO that grew up right here with us, so it's always fun. Thanks, James.
It's good to be back.
While they're doing the picture, I want to mention this is a very competitive award program, and I looked through the numbers that they competed with for their categories. They scored very well, and to get 2 is outstanding. So, great job.
Okay, thank you. Come home again. Okay. All right, moving on. Next, we'll have an update from Waste Management. It's Vince Jameson, District Manager, and Middle Peninsula Landfill, and Brian Lewis, Director of Engineering Services.
Good evening. You want me to just go down the list of questions, or how do you want to do this?
Well, you don't smell them.
Pardon? I'm hard of hearing.
I think it would be helpful, I mean, we, and through Brian and George prior to that, sent some information from things that you all said, but we felt like this was an opportunity to not only have open dialogue and information to the board, but for the filming and all that. So I think for everyone who's not seeing this paper, that would be watching online now or later, it might be helpful if you don't mind reviewing this.
Okay, I can do that.
A quick question, though. Just a question I had when I reviewed this over the weekend. How many more years do you have left at this facility?
If we max out on tonnage every year going forward, there's still 37 years of life.
37 years.
Yeah, and that's if we hit 660,000 ton a year.
How many?
660,000.
And you get them from outside states as well, right?
We get garbage from Virginia, Maryland, DC, and occasionally we get a little bit out of New York, New Jersey area, but not often.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a very small percentage. All right, going down the list, the contract revenue, 3-year summary. 2022, total to Gloucester County was $541,932. 2023, $788,900. In 2024, it was $700,511. We're on track to, we'll be close to that 700 number this year, I think, tonnage-wise. So we should be fairly close to same thing, maybe a little less because volumes are a little down this year. The next question asked was the amount of trash that Gloucester County has deposited in the landfill. 2022, 29,754 tons. 2023, 29,879 tons. 2024, it was 28,928 tons. Now that's the tonnage that we take in for free from the county. Recycling rates for Gloucester County for the past 3 years, if you add up the paper, the co-mix, the metal, the brush, the tires, the used oil, and the batteries we bring in, that includes the household hazardous waste collection for the batteries and stuff. 2022 was 9.5% recycle rate. 2023, 9%. 2024, 13.15% recycle rate. Operation of the landfill, the trash that's disposed of and which cell, and what percent of the landfill has been used, and the gas generation. The cells that's been used, we've built 1 through 13, and we skipped over 14 and built 15. The next one we'll build will be 14. That's, if you do the math, we've used up 41.36% of the airspace that's available for the site. That would leave the remaining airspace at 37 years. Like I said, if we hit 660,000 tons every year going forward. And we're not forecasting that this year. We're not forecasting that many tons next year, but we are forecasting an increase. And then years after that, we're hoping to be at that max number. Our renewable energy gas plant produces 6 megawatts of power per hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The remaining landfill gas runs the concentrators and the flare.
So where does that energy go?
Pardon?
Where does the energy go that you
We sell it right back to the power company. It goes right back to the grid.
But it's gas, right?
Pardon? No, it's electric.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We take the methane gas and we produce electricity and sell it right back to the grid. So, someone had asked about the borrow area that we permitted a few years back. We have not went into that borrow area yet. It's still untouched. It's still being farmed as farmland right now. The cost to run the 5 convenience centers from the site, if you break it down, the trucking to haul the trash, $573,082, and these are 2024 numbers. The cost of recycling, $101,799. The 2 household hazardous waste collection events we held cost $106,000. Labor to run the sites, $724,512 for the year, for a grand total of $1,505,333. That's what it costs to run the 5 centers in 2024.
Ballpark on revenues? Is that something you're willing to share, what your revenues are?
What's that?
What are your revenues at the site?
I can't share that info.
Can't share that, okay.
So.
That's fine.
What's the cost savings to the county for not having the tip fee and having the convenience centers on site? The best way we could figure that was if landfill wasn't here, what it would cost to truck it to Charles City, the next closest landfill. That we assumed 30,000 tons a year because that's basically what you're bringing in, with a gate rate of $35 a ton. And the trans, right now we figured it'd be about $28.80 a ton to get it there. Made a total trans and disposal of $63.80 a ton. So the total came to $1,914,000 a year if you had to truck the trash out of here. So,
Yes.
Just for clarification on that savings of 1.9 million that we're not having to pay to take our trash somewhere else, does that take into account the operation of the convenience centers? Because if we were hauling our trash somewhere else, we would still have to have convenience centers.
yeah, that number does not take into account the convenience centers.
So it's really not just a savings in 1.9 to send it somewhere else. If we were having to,
You would basically add that 1.5 to it.
that's what I'm thinking. I didn't know if it was the whole amount because of the trucking and the recycling, but that's trucking it up to waste management, and we would be going further than that. So $3.4 million of savings that if we didn't have that landfill, that our citizens would have to pay for in
Correct.
taxes. That's a big number. Thank you.
Yeah, big number.
What's that? 1.9 and 1, oh, okay.
I'll let you finish.
I am finished with the sheet.
You got a backside?
We did have a backside. Forgot about that. So, wanted to throw in there some of the donations and in-kind stuff we do for the county. We're committed to supporting the county that we live and work in. Throughout the years, Middle Peninsula has been a community partner to several local nonprofits, providing both monetary and in-kind donations, as well as education about the landfill and recycling. Some of the things we sponsored: Gloucester Youth Baseball, Gloucester Youth Daffodil Festival, Gloucester County Public School Education Foundation, Gloucester County Clean Communities, Gloucester County Homestead 2025, the Bay Stars. I think that's a soccer team, I think, isn't it? Yeah. It's not Gloucester County, but Middlesex Kiwanis Club, Ware Academy, Abingdon Royalton Club, both spring and fall festivals, Town of Warsaw, and Richmond County. Some of the educational stuff: Gloucester County High School, we've done Career Day multiple years, and Christ Church School, we sponsored there, and Salem United Methodist Church, we've done a recycling presentation there at one time. So, just some of the items. Any additional questions?
Got a couple.
Okay.
Mr. Jamison, roughly what tonnage are you getting a year? I know you said you're not getting the 660.
We're averaging about 40,000 tons a month right now.
480.
So 480, about 480, 490, something like that is what we're looking at this year.
Okay. And the 14 cells are out of how many?
14 out of 26.
And the borough area, if permitting, you can put cells in there also, correct?
No, it would have to be, we only have 224 acres permitted as landfill. If you wanted to permit that as landfill, additional landfill, you would have to go back to DEQ.
But that could be permitted.
It could be,
And
yeah.
how many acres is that?
That's 60 acres is what that,
And roughly, how many cells, roughly?
we average around 10 acres a cell. So,
6.
yeah. And if you tied it into the other existing, because there's a part A and a part B, if you took that and tied all three of them together, there would be a big valley in the middle that would definitely be more airspace.
Okay.
So,
And on the recycling cost for, at the convenience centers, do we get revenue, do you get revenue off of that?
it cost me. That's what it cost me. That
In addition to the
101,000.
revenue?
Pardon?
In addition to the revenue you get?
That's from the recycling. I pay to take it to the recycling center. I don't make any.
Even with the change in cardboard only?
Yeah, that, if you notice the two sites, Guinea Road and Courthouse site, I'm trying to get those two sites where they're just OCC in the compactors, because I can get paid for that.
Can you explain that? Because I got calls on that.
Okay, Those two compactors we're just going to use them for cardboard.
And paper
No,
originally?
just
And
cardboard.
originally it was paper?
Yeah, the paper will go in with the co-mix because it's dumped on the same floor anyway when they take it to the MRF. The cans and the bottles and plastic bottles and the paper all goes on the same floor. So we can put it in the same can, and then we'll save the two compactors to just put cardboard in. That's the ultimate goal.
But the reason is originally with the paper in it, you weren't able to sell it at a higher price.
I couldn't sell it at all.
Okay,
It was
but
just,
now you're able
it was
to
still
sell it.
costing me to get rid of it, yeah.
Okay. But I think, Ms. Steele, with your numbers, instead of 3.4, it would be probably closer to 2.9, because you would knock out one of the two transportations, because you wouldn't have to double haul it. It would be somewhat lower, but still it's a savings to the county. And how much longer is the contract?
The contractor is till the site is full.
Okay.
This is how long the contract lasts.
And all the recycling rates that you have here under number 3 are all tonnage?
Pardon?
Number 3, item number 3,
Yeah, that was all the centers.
it's tonnage.
Yeah.
Net? 2,000 tons? 2,000 pound tons?
Yes.
Okay. That's my question.
Any other questions? Yes, Dr. Orth?
Okay. What about smell? I know early on we had the smell that was absolutely awful. And I think it had to do with some chemical imbalance or whatever.
We continue to add to our gas collection system every year. As a matter of fact, we just started a project this week to help eliminate odors and better collect the gas from the methane gas from the landfill. So every year we try to do an upgrade that kind of helps with that. A lot of methane gas is going to the renewable energy plant, and now we've got the concentrator that's running, and we still have the flare that's burning off any excess gas.
I was going to ask Mr. Gibson, any comments from your constituents about smell?
No, I haven't received any complaints about that, but there was a concern about noise. I was going to ask, is there any update on that issue?
We went back to the manufacturer of the concentrator, and we brought a professional in that did a sound study, and they determined it was the blade pass frequency in the blower motor. So what the manufacturer recommended was we go in, they come and they put more bars in the blower housing. It would change the blade pass frequency. We done that about a month ago, and it literally made it worse. So we took those back out, and now they're looking into other options as to what we can do to, whether it, it might be, they're looking at an option of putting the silencer on the stack, but they got to figure out how to do that, one that will last. So.
Okay, so this is a comment. It's ironic that today, I just happened to read an article, and believe it or not, this is true, about a flower that flowers once every 10 years, okay? It's in the West Pacific. The flower is about 1 meter wide, and again, once every 10 years, and it emits an aroma. It stinks. It's called a corpse, like a corpse.
I've heard of that.
Okay, and they're flowering now, and the article said, it smells worse than a landfill. But only lasts 2 days.
Well, that's a good thing.
But I just had to laugh, given that you were on tonight, and this article came across myself, and it was just like, I had a good laugh this morning. Because that's what it said.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you for always answering the phone or an email when we reach out. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it very much. Greg Interline left us in very capable hands, and appreciate the partnership we have.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I've left everybody with a map too.
Okay,
So
got it. Thank you.
any questions with it, just give me a call.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you
all.
so much. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Okay, blank, look, there we go. Unaudited year-end financial report, Ms. Callaway. Huh?
evening. So this evening I'll be presenting. Are you something wrong? I am. I don't have heels on. I am a little bit shorter. I'll have to remember that. I can stand on my tippy toes. That's okay. It's a whole lot more fun than talking about finances. Yeah, maybe I'll get a little stool. So tonight I'm going to be going over the financial update for the year end of fiscal year 2025, which ended June 30th. So I always talk about that this is an unaudited report. I had a couple of discussions this evening, just real brief ones that I wanted to ask for feedback on if the board prefers to get a September update where I say, this is not final because our audit is next week, and we really have a hard time getting preliminary numbers together, but you've typically heard June 30th numbers in September, and that's what we've done our best to carry out. But there will likely be a discussion, hopefully at the retreat, to potentially just push this off into October, where I can give numbers with certainty, as opposed to a few numbers that I'm going to tell you are going to change. So I'm going to give it my best this evening, and I'll go through the numbers, and you'll get a pretty good idea of how we ended the fiscal year. But I wanted to add that disclaimer. A quick agenda. We're going to go over some of the major funds. Starting with the county's general fund, this is a reminder of where the county general fund revenue comes from. So a pie chart just to remind you that 62% in fiscal year 25, 62% of our revenues for the general fund come from property taxes. And then you can see in that yellow slice of pie, other local taxes, it makes up 19%, so it's 81% of the county's revenue from a couple of concentrated sources, which is nothing new to any of you, but a good reminder as we walk through these numbers. This shows a summary of the property tax category of the general fund revenue. So this is the more detailed version of that giant green slice of pie I just showed you. So you have public service, penalties and interest, personal property, real estate, and mobile home tax revenue in this category. That red line is a 100% of our budget, and you can see that 4 out of those 5 categories exceeded 100% of our budget. We expected this. You all are aware that we did a tax increase during the budget this year in April. So that tax increase, we recognized some of that revenue this year, and I'll have some figures on that in this presentation as well. So this is not unexpected. So property tax. This is the real estate and personal property revenues. In that first column, where it totals to $976,000, that's what the last number I provided during budget season of how much additional revenue we believed we would be receiving in fiscal year 25 by doing the tax increases. And where we landed is 1.1 million. So in excess of budget between real estate and personal property revenue. Let's see. All right, so next is other local taxes. Again, the red line, that's 100% of budget. You can see here that not all of those met that budget. And this is something we've been talking about throughout budget season, that these are our sales tax, our lodging, our meals tax. Those are those big consumer-driven taxes. When people are spending a lot of money, those go up. And so we saw huge double-digit growth factors early on in 2021, 2022. And so as that spending started to pull back a little bit, we saw more pressure on the real estate and personal property tax. So we're seeing that picture play out here, where this other local taxes group that makes up about 17% of general fund revenue came in $347,000 under budget. Putting all of that together for general fund revenue, in total, general fund revenue I'm expecting will come in about $830,000 more than budget. So where I had in a couple slides back, that 1.1 million, that number is getting eaten into a little bit by some other revenue sources that are not going to meet budget.
So real quick, so 800, let's say $600,000 positive revenue, was the tax increase necessary, or at least 1 penny of it?
I believe so. It was, we would not have recommended it if we didn't believe it was necessary. We're only seeing the very beginning of those revenues, those consumer-driven type of revenues start to decline a little bit. And it's always a guessing game. Our price is going to rise to the point where it keeps those types of revenues steady. But if you'll remember in the last presentation, I believe I presented where the real estate tax used to make up a bigger portion, and now that kind of, we were able to place more reliance on sales, meals, lodging, and that's just kind of contracted a little bit. So I believe we would have not met budget on our real estate tax if we had not raised taxes. So just going back to general fund revenue, I mentioned about $830,000, I think, is what we're going to end the year positive in general fund revenue. That's more than budget. You can see those two categories I mentioned that make up most of our revenues, and those are circled in red. And then you can see, I think it's 5 out of 9 of those revenues did not meet budgets. And so those are all, most of them are revenues that are driven in some shape or form by economic conditions. Shifting to expenses, this is the percentage spent of general fund budgets, and you can see that most came in right there at the, we were a little tighter in past years. We've had quite a bit of vacancy savings, a lot of turnover. If you listen to federal news, you're hearing some unemployment changes happening, nowadays, and we're seeing that our turnover is not quite what it was in the past, and so we didn't recognize that same amount of excess savings that we have in past years. All in all, I believe the general fund is going to come in about 3% under budget in spending, so about $1.5 million. So this is the general fund. We just talked about that left side of this pie in your chart on the left, where it's all of the different pieces of the general fund budget are, public safety, general administration, all of these departments. But then that green slice of the pie on the right, that's transfers to other funds. So 46% of the general fund budget is going to other funds, and that's the schools, is most notably, and then also social services, debt service, things like that. So you can see in this slide that we're expecting it was initially about 1.5 million of excess transfer savings. So that's where a lot of the general fund savings came from this year. I will mention that these numbers may shift a little bit, specifically as we get into reconciling for the audit. The school fund is a big fund to reconcile, and those reconciliations are still happening, and that number may fluctuate. Putting all this together, I always hesitate to put this in a preliminary type of presentation, but fund balance, the ultimate picture here is that we're going to have excess fund balance this year above, when you take into consideration all of the appropriations of unassigned fund balance that are for the 2026 budget. Based on where I think we'll end 2025, we should still have about 1.4 million in fund balance in excess of the 16% policy.
Can I interrupt just to say
Yes.
that would provide funding for the next CIP unless we start doing something differently? That's what we rely on.
Yes. Just a reminder that we do our best to leverage additional revenue sources and to go out there and search for funding. So in fiscal year 25, we submitted 43 grant applications and were awarded $1.7 million in grant funds. There is a grant report. I know the writing is very small, and I apologize. We do our best to put all the data that we can on there. That's on page 116 of your board packet if you're interested in that.
Are these mostly federal?
No, a lot of them are state. A few are federal, but federal grants actually make up the smaller portion. Most of it comes from state. I will say I threw in there, so there's some opioid programs. Some of that would be, that's a whole different category in itself. All right, a quick review of the utilities fund. Again, another place where we kind of have been seeing some struggles on the revenue side or trending down a little bit. So you adopted an increase in rates in April. So the green and the blue bars in that chart on the left are showing just the year-over-year growth, and it's a nice little, very small but steady stair stepper, but that green and blue bar for fiscal year 25 do take into consideration the rate increase for May and June bills this fiscal year. All in all, I am expecting that we will end with about $600,000 in fund balance for utilities in the unassigned fund balance. Still very, very minimal in comparison to what should be there, which is why we've talked at multiple meetings about the rates and the spending plan and the capital plan. However, a slightly better position than we were expecting, some of which is due to timing of capital projects that we're working on, and then a little bit perhaps from rate increases where we're recognizing a little additional revenue there. Question?
What would be the recommended fund balance? And you don't have to answer that tonight, but that'd be nice to know once we get the finalized numbers, what we need that to be as well.
Absolutely, and it's not going to be hard to see here, and I can clarify that. I know generally about 120% of expenditures, but we will, is that right, 120 is what we were doing? Yes, 20 to 25% in addition to the budget. So, but yes, I think that would be something I can put in a future presentation. All right. The school sales tax fund, you can see another nice stair step there of the year-over-year revenues for this school sales tax fund. And private meeting, okay.
No, excuse me.
Do you need me to get taller?
Does anybody else hear anything buzzing?
No. Is it, sorry.
No, it's a buzz.
I hear it, little fella.
But I'll wear heels next time, and it will fix all of this, I think. I don't ever mean to throw you off like that again.
It's like a whoop, whoop, whoop.
That's the water.
No, it's.
All right, if we can get back to the school sales tax fund.
What'd you buy?
Maybe I need to call in.
Fiscal year 2025, the total school sales tax revenue was $6,050,000. You can see that is an increase more than $100,000 from last fiscal year, $150,000 actually, more than fiscal year 2024. In total, that fund has now brought in $23.3 million in tax revenue since the inception of the tax, $1.3 million in interest earnings, and then we've spent $8.5 million on eligible project debt service.
So later on, later on this evening, we're going to talk about the generator for the high school.
Yes.
And could we couch the cost of that additional generator as part of the renovation to the high school and use some of this money for that?
It'd be
We could classify it as a part of the renovation, right?
It's an option we can consider.
We say we missed it, and here it is. We need the money now to complete the renovation of the high school. Could we, Mr. Wilmot, consider that part of the renovation?
What's the cost?
$43,000?
I think it's more than that.
We don't have a final cost yet. That'll be in the next presentation.
About $500,000, right?
No, it won't be that much. We have a percent that we pay of the total project.
So I'm just wondering if we could use and classify the additional cost of the generator as part of the completion of the renovation and use it that way and couch it that way and still get by with the state.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
You may be able to, it just would come down to whether the additional expenditure constitutes a major renovation, because we're left almost in the dark.
No, but don't treat it isolated as you're treating it as an isolated case. This is, we missed something and we need to complete the renovation of the high school, and this is the generator that we need to complete the renovation. Don't consider it an independent issue. It's more of a complete package.
Certainly, if it were part of the original, or part of the renovation, then yes, it could.
Was it?
No.
The generator, the large generator was, but I think we're getting onto the next topic, and I'll, yeah.
Well, that's fine, fair enough.
Okay.
The last piece I had to say on this particular fund is that you did just approve an additional $7 million. It's going to be less than that, but not to exceed $7 million for a school HVAC projects. They all were considered major construction and eligible for school sales tax. And those will, after funding the debt service on those projects and the existing debt service that we have in place right now, it's expected we'll have about $7.5 million remaining in that fund at the end of the sunset period.
Okay.
So this is just a what's next. So we are, as I mentioned, the auditors come to, they're on site, our external auditors, next week. So they will be here the entire week next week. We will be back in December to present the audit. That's a standard. The auditors do that for us. And budget season is well underway. We are working on the capital budget now. Operating budget juices are already flowing. And I will be back in February to present the mid-year financial report. Ultimately, as I mentioned, we will end this year, I believe, with an excess fund balance. Revenues higher than expected. Well, not higher than expected, higher than originally budgeted, which we know the reason for. And those are going to be offset just a little bit by some of those shortfalls in other revenue categories. Happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir. You hearing things again?
No, I still hear it, but Ms. Callaway, I'm glad Mr. Chriscoe brought that up about the fund balance for the utilities. Because I know back during budget season, we discussed putting money out of our fund balance, unassigned fund balance, into that fund balance. Could you get with Ms. Legg and determine what a good amount or proper amount or a closer amount that we could get to it so we could look at a very soon upcoming meeting,
Yes.
making that transfer?
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Callaway.
Yeah, no, don't run off.
Okay, moving on. Grant application for Gloucester High School emergency shelter use. Ms. Steele.
Yes, so we have another opportunity for a grant from VDEM that we've applied for in the past and not been successful for with trying to get the generator for building 2. And this year we have a little different situation, and it's the same focus. They're trying to take shelters, emergency shelters, and make sure that they can support the community. So we had noticed the end of the summer or during the summer about the grant coming up, but we had not exercised the generator that is part of the renovation. So we have sort of 2 aspects to this project. One is when they finally exercised the generator, we realized that there were some areas of the building that would need to be used if it was going to be an emergency shelter that were currently not lit. And so we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon with the electrician, and they were there during our exercise at the high school, along with our engineer, and going through and identifying, okay, what's on, what's not working. They gave a worst case scenario story to us of a place that a cafeteria worked, but the vent system, the hood system didn't, so they couldn't cook. So you literally have to go make sure that what you want for a shelter is there. And we don't have several aspects of lighting. It should not be a big deal because the power is there. We're not even touching the capacity of this generator. It's the matter of connecting these areas for lights, for the group of bathrooms that are right next to the cafeteria, and 3 classrooms that we know we don't have lighting for, and then the radio system that allows for the emergency communication lost power and cannot be run. Yes?
If I can just ask a question. So why wasn't this, if we're not lighting the entire school with this generator that has excess capacity, why wasn't that considered in the scope of work that we would light the whole building up for emergency use?
I think there was a miss on this.
It was a miss.
And I think there was a miss because it was something that's never been done before to this quite a degree. We asked from the very beginning that when they renovated the high school that they consider using it as our new shelter. They put that into the plan with the engineers. The engineers said, we're doing it, but we had some frustration of not knowing what would be lit until literally the day that it was tested. And I talked to the electrician about that, and he had some frustration with the engineering firm. It wasn't a big mess, but it is one. I mean, so we're gonna, again, we're meeting tomorrow to find out what the cost would be to finish off that generator to make sure that we can run the school when we need to.
And what would the grant, I'm sorry, Ms. Steele, what would the grant pay for?
So the grant pays for up to $450,000 of this emergency generator expenses. So the second issue that we knew going into this, when they put in the big generator, that would not fund our pump stations, actually the school's pump station. So if you have lights but you can't flush toilets, because the sewer's not moving, it's not a good thing. So we knew going into that, that was not part of the high school's project. This was more of a utilities thing that would need to be an upgrade just for us. It's not dealing with the school kids. And so we had a quote that's included in your board packet that does need to be verified because it's, I don't know if it was updated or not, but we will, it was for $44,750 and plus the install. And so we're going to get all of these prices together. The same electrician who can make the pump station run on a generator, a different generator with a new propane tank or diesel tank that there is space for. We've already checked that out. And so you'd have a bill for the electrical company that would do all this work, as well as Phillips. Or I think actually, I'm sorry, Brian said that Phillips would throw in the tank for free because we're going to be, purchasing fuel for it. So the way that the grant works, it's up to $450, but there is an amount that each locality pays, and that was the determined percentage. And our match requirement is 34%. And because we're on a crunch deadline, we mentioned this to the county attorney, because here we go again, but it's just so hard to pull these things together with all the other things that we're doing, plus the fact that we had to test the school, And so what we'd like to do is proceed with a grant with your permission. We will, in the next couple of weeks before it's due, we will finalize the price and turn it in after it's gone through our grant policy program. And then if the grant is awarded, we would come back to you to ask you to accept it. And at that time, we would have plenty of time to identify, does it meet for sales tax? Does it meet for any other requirement, or, the schools having extra funding, or utilities, or anybody that would be kicking in on it. With the cost we have, if it's $100,000, it's probably going to be more than that, but even if it was $200,000, you're looking at $68,000. So it's not going to be a huge amount of money that we're going to need to finish this project.
So back to my original question before we start talking about this, is that if this was a miss, scope of work miss, you can still categorize this additional expense, the 40, whatever, 34,000, whatever it's going to be, as part of the renovation that we did not anticipate. And then it would not cost the taxpayers any money. It'll be grant money coming in, and We won't have to do, dip into our general fund or unfunded, what do you call it? Fund balance, and it just repurpose the scope of work that we missed it.
So I think we can absolutely go through the sales tax request to the county attorney and give him time to weigh out both situations, the electrical work being finished off, as well as the need for an additional generator.
But, Ms. Steele, I mean, I think you need to look at it the way I think it would be great to be able to do that, but the way that we're requesting it is for emergency shelter,
Yes.
which is utilizing the school as an emergency shelter.
Right, we're sort of guests of theirs at the time. The one thing that we told them though that's really nice with if we can get the pump station running is when there's times that there's an issue with one area, like we could have a power outage on Short Lane, and we would normally, the school system would normally have to send the kids home. With the generator that they put in, allowing it to be an emergency shelter, and if we provide for the sewer, because they cannot stay in school if they can't flush the toilets. But so on both of these things, they may not have full light, but they'd have security lighting. I think that, throughout the whole school, as well as the primary areas, it could keep them from having to close on a power outage if they're the only ones hit. So I don't know if that warrants, again, I think, I think we can come up with the money one way or the other, and we would bring several suggestions or bring the options to you at the time if we get the grant.
I mean, I think it's a good idea to pursue the grants, and I think it's a good idea to look at the generator for the pump station. I just, depending upon how it's worded, I think it would be difficult to use the sales tax money.
And where would that generator be located? Would it be located at the pump station or would it be located at the school? So
No, it has to be located at the school, and that was part of, and I may say that wrong, but actually if either.
Two generators.
It's two generators. There's a separate generator just for the pump station.
Where would that be located?
That would be located adjacent to the pump station.
Which
That's
is
part of the
way,
problem.
okay, so that's a problem, because it's way across over.
Right, one of the problems is that the current generator, which is huge, you would be quite a distance to bring that over to the pump station. You'd have to go under a road, it gets a lot more expensive. Where if we put the generator adjacent to the school, okay, I said it wrong, adjacent to the pump station, it'd be just much better. And it's clearly identified as that's what that's for. It could be a much smaller generator.
I'm fine with it.
I agree, Mr. Hutson. We should apply for it, and then if it's $34,000 to $68,000, we figure out how to fund it. And you can call it a miss, but the school could still operate because some of the bathrooms will work. They'll just have to if they have no power, they just have to shut down a few of the bathrooms, and people have to go to a different one, which just wouldn't work for a sheltering purpose, but it would work for a school purpose if, to get those kids, home until the power comes back on. They would still have a restroom to use. So I don't want anybody to think that we put a generator in at the high school that if the lights go out, they have to send the kids home because they can't use the bathroom. They can, just not all of them.
The pump station wouldn't be working, so they wouldn't be able to use any of them.
Correct, but I'm saying though, if the high school was to lose power by itself and if the power was out, that pump station was still on,
Okay,
they could still use the facilities, just not all of the facilities in the high school.
Right.
Some of them would still be operational.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any other discussion on this? Everybody in agreement to move forward with the head
Thank you.
nod? Okay. All righty, moving on.
One other point.
Yes, sir.
In the event that we have to have a shelter before this is completed, we do have a shelter at Peasley that would be up and operational if we needed it. It's just
Yeah, that's a good question. How about the other schools? T.C. Walker, Peasley, they don't have generators for
they
emergency?
don't have the hookups. When Peasley was built, it was added there.
Petsworth?
No.
So the high school would be the only opportunity.
Well, Peasley was built, when it was built,
Page.
was added as a shelter.
Page has two big generators back there, don't they?
Not set up
No, it's not set up as an emergency shelter.
Okay. No other? Moving on. Discussion and consideration for a possible fall retreat and the 2027 meeting calendar. Ms. Steele and Ms. Cronin. Ms. Cronin.
Thank
For
you.
January retreat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to jump in. Carol, I'm sure is going to, Ms. Steele will jump in if there's anything that I miss. I'm going to try to go very quickly. We've been generally doing some initial planning on several different things that we need the board's input on. As you're aware, the board generally adopts a meeting calendar for the upcoming fiscal year at the joint meeting in October. The board has also discussed several times over the course of this year adding additional town halls to future meeting calendars. And then we've had some early discussions on possible retreat dates for a fall retreat for this year. And then we also want to propose adding a court circle tour in November as part of the historic buildings conditions assessment presentation. So I'm going to go through all of them, all the considerations that we kind of want you to be aware of, and then I'll circle back to the ones we actually need a decision on tonight or some input tonight. Some of the meeting calendar that I left on your space, I'm going to talk about that briefly, but that's more like homework because we'll come back at the next meeting for you to have a chance to look at that and kind of consider those things. So for the court circle tour, the historic buildings conditions assessment is going to be presented to the board. We anticipate on the November 18th work session. And we're proposing to have a physical tour of the building so that you can actually see the conditions to go along with the presentation that's going to be made that night. And because at that point the sun will be setting at 5 p.m., we thought it might be best to do that at 4 p.m. And so we anticipate doing that for about an hour, and then we would have a short dinner break in between that tour and the November 18th 6 p.m. start for the work session. For the retreat, we're looking at mid to late November or early December, something that will work for both the board and the newly elected supervisors, as we know we'll have at least 2 new members. And once we decide on that date or format, we'll reach out to the candidates and all of the candidates and ask them to save that date so that no matter what the election results are, they should hopefully be able to join us. And as you know, the board's had half-day retreats, full-day retreats, so we are going to look for input from you on what your preference is. We've done work days and weekends, so we need kind of feedback in order to finalize some options. And then the town halls that you've discussed, it was brought up that maybe we could do those quarterly next year, and you'll remember there was some discussion about during election years, there was some concern about having them in the fall of an election year. So what we're kind of proposing is to have 3 town halls in a year as opposed to 4, and then we can alternate in election years and non-election years. We could do March, June, and September in election years, March, June, and late November, or sorry, flip that. March, June, and September in non-election years, March, June, and November in election years, so that you bypass that concern. We do need to have feedback on whether you want those televised, because that's location dependent. It's either here or TC Walker if you want them televised and recorded. And Dr. Orth also had some concerns about the format, having the board, in like a line up front, and then the citizens sitting in an audience. So if you want to modify that, we kind of need that feedback for locations. And so the calendar that you have, some of the considerations for the FY27 budget meetings. If you'll remember, traditionally we have 2 firm budget work sessions and then 2 listed as possible budget work sessions, and then a budget adoption meeting that's separate. We this year held a county administrator proposed budget the night before the joint meeting with the school board. We're proposing next year to move that back by 1 week. So you would have, in effect, your regular meeting the first week of March, the budget presentation from the county administrator the second week of March, and then the third week of March, you would have your joint meeting with the school board. That way you're just having 1 meeting per week. Those first 3 weeks kind of gives you a little bit of preparation to go into that full 2 meetings a week later on. The board also this year chose to make the decision on the advertised tax rates the night of the joint meeting with the school board. If you want that to continue, then the earliest that you could hold your budget public hearing would be the week of April 6th, and that is spring break week. And so if you want to bypass spring break to give, and that's what we would recommend as well, to make sure that the majority of people that might want to participate who would be traveling during spring break can come out for the budget public hearings, to have it the following week, the week of April 12th. We intentionally delayed this year most of the work session meetings to after the budget public hearings and the town hall meetings, so that you had input from the citizens before you started making your modifications to the budget. If you want to continue that, there were some concerns expressed about the compressed time for the budget work sessions and the budget adoption. So one of the things that you could do is to hold the town hall meeting the week after the joint meeting with the school board. So you'd have at least part of that citizen input prior to the budget public hearings. You could schedule a work session, either 1 or 2, because we have an extra Tuesday in March. We actually have an extra week. So you could add a couple of budget work sessions in between town hall and budget public hearing. So I think I've hit all of the highlights. Having that town hall and the work sessions divided up that way does even give you the option to have additional budget work sessions. So if you thought we need to have multiple budget work sessions, especially with new members on the board that might want to go into things in a little bit more depth, or if you wanted to have department directors to come to multiple meetings, to break them up, if you decided you wanted to do that, that you do have that flexibility there. Okay, so I kind of went through all of that real fast. So the budget calendars you can take home. But if we can come back to the court circle tour, first of all, what are the thoughts of the board members on having a 4 p.m. start on November 18th?
I don't think that's a problem, but I'm good.
If any of the board members would like to do dinner together ahead of time, if you want us to get box lunch for you or anything like that, just let us know at the next meeting if that's something that you'd like to do in that hour recess, because we don't want you to try to go to a restaurant and not be able to get served in time and get back in time.
I mean, box lunches are fine. I mean, could we work with the restaurant to let them know that?
That's what I'm saying. If you wanted to go somewhere, you could do that. We just order ahead of time for you.
If they had a menu, we could say, hey, this is what we want. I think that might be a more relaxing thing than sitting with a little box lunch. I know we have to be careful of what we talk about with each other, but that's not a problem.
Well, Trish could borrow the gavel and sit with you and.
But yeah, I mean, something local, like, we're local ones that have adequate seating, or like Lydia's has a back room, whatever.
Okay, and so then the second thing for the retreat, is there any thought or input on full day, half day, weekend, weekday as a start?
I thought, Ms. Cronin, did we discuss that previously and talked about Saturday? I thought we had that discussion.
A year ago.
Oh, was it a year ago? It was a whole year ago? I guess I'm hearing things too.
It's the day of the parade. I don't like that idea.
No.
I don't like the day of the parade, Christmas parade. And looking at the calendar, I know Mr. Gibson's not going to be with us next year, but we need to seriously consider moving our regular meeting to either that Monday, probably the Monday the 13th of April for spring break. Because we moved it from having with the teacher, well, we've got 2 teachers and people with school-age kids moving. I mean, it doesn't affect me really, but having the spring break and not having people here. So that's something that we did last year. I know it doesn't really work this year calendar-wise, but it's something we need to consider when we're doing the calendar. And the other thing is we're going to have 2, potentially 3 board members. I think it might be a good idea to do, I know when we came on and a couple subsequent times, just to tour the facilities, just to update everybody.
That question was brought up both from the new board members getting to meet the staff and where they are, and we wanted to coordinate that as part of their orientation program, which would be separate from the retreat. And it also was brought up about whether we were going to do a capital improvements tour. And having new members, I think it would be a good idea to do a CIP tour, and we'll check with the calendar, we'll work on that for the draft again for your review, but I think it would be good for you to have that before the public hearing. So sometime in early January, from the time that I do the presentation to the public hearing, if in that next week, so that way when the public comes out and you all are deciding what, and you're providing the comments and feedback on the CIP, you will have already been to the sites and sort of understand better about what we're talking about. So I think both of those things would be helpful. And we can add in, the orientation, I think we can deal with the facilities and getting because we were anticipating doing a group orientation, not a single.
So we can bring back at the next meeting the actual adoption for the change to the current calendar for the court circle tour, and then I'll try to pull some possible Saturday retreat dates. We don't have a lot of Saturdays between the election and Christmas, but I'll pull those together and bring those back to the board at the next meeting, and then also ask for your feedback at that time on the potential FY27 budget calendar. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we'll add in that CIP tour as a draft.
There's,
Yes, sir.
with the retreat, looking at the calendar, the options that are going to work the best for us are going to be like the 15th and the 22nd of November, because other than that, you're pushing, the 29th is Thanksgiving weekend, the 6th is the Christmas parade, and then basically you're up against Christmas time. The other thing that I'd like to add for a...
But the 22nd is VACO, right?
No, VACO's the 10th and the 11th. An agenda topic. Ms. Calloway brought it up, doing the September presentation pre-audit. I'd like to have that as a discussion topic because she's duplicating work that she's done it, and then all of a sudden, well, now here's corrected. I think we should just put that as a quick agenda topic for that day so we can punt this September presentation to an October or first meeting in November presentation where we probably can, but just so we get that on the radar so we can fix that going forward.
Yes, sir.
If I might add, Ms. Cronin and everybody on the board, I'm scheduled to have surgery middle of December. So November will probably work because once I have surgery, I'm going to be down for a little while. And so if we can do it in November, that would be great.
Yes, sir.
15th to 22nd.
15th and 22nd.
Mr. Chair, I can send out a doodle poll to the board for the 15th and the 22nd,
Yes.
and that way you
That'll
all can
work.
check your
That's fine.
calendars and let me know.
Thank you. Solved. That's fine. Thank you. Okay, any other discussion on that? If not, then we're going to move on to supervisor discussion.
One comment.
Yes, sir.
So I won't be here in January, but it would be nice if you gentlemen put cushions out on the benches out there. It's not going to cost that much.
Are you going to come back and sit on them?
Yes, I will.
I don't want them that comfortable then.
Because I've received folks say, hey, why can't they just put something to make it a little more comfortable out there? It shouldn't cost that much to put cushions out there, right? If anything, it's a legacy to me.
You want to spend gold plates on your pews too?
No, just cushions. That's it. That's all I've got.
It's not. Okay, but she's going to send it. Okay. Okay. Any other board member discussion? No other board member discussion? No. One other thing on the list?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.